Did you know that when you are diagnosed with some sort of ailment, you experience a feeling of grief, a sense of loss of who you were, your previous identity, what you could do, what you had been able to do, and what you can't do going forward that you could do before? That is something we are addressing in this episode of Collateral Nation, because according to Kevin, he, of course, is my amazing co-host here on Collateral Nation, and his book, it's a P.A.D training manual, um, in order to move forward with what you need to do to get a life back, to improve your quality of life. You need to accept that grief, and you need to figure out how to move forward so you can build those collateral vessels to walk through that pain, walk further, walk faster, and improve your prognosis for the future. And since we're addressing grief in this first of a 3-episode series where we're going to deep dive into Kevin's new book, since we're talking about grief, we have Coach Susan here with SusanPerformance.com. She's a grief specialist. She's amazing. She's helped me in the past through a few losses. So I appreciate her being here as well. But Kevin, what do you think? How do you want to get started today?
Well, I can introduce the book and how I created it and why. And then I will enter the first chapter, which is on letting go of, your previous life, because that takes time. You have to grieve it in a healthy way. And then people can, ask questions and go in as I go work my way through the first chapter. It's not that long. It's probably the longest chapter in the book, but that's still not very long, just a few pages. So yeah, let's see how it goes.
Okay. And Susan, just before we get started, can you give us a few words? How would you define grief?
It's a shock. Your body is in shock, your mind is in shock because there's a sudden stop. So we've got to recognize that you are in shock initially, and then comes the other cycle of grief, denial, anger, and then it repeats. And it doesn't matter. There's no wrong way to grieve, is the bottom line.
Perfect. Okay, Kevin, let's get started. I'm really excited just because you just released your audio book as well. So hearing you read is just, it's so inspiring.
Man, Kim is so emotional. I've got Asperger's, so I don't really get into that so much. But anyway, I'm going to read it on my phone, from my phone. Yep. The book is also available as an audio book or paperback. But there's a number of things you need to know about the book itself. Number one, you have to understand the peripheral artery disease, or P.A.D, is with you for life unless they come up with some amazing discoveries. Once you have had any surgery or any treatment you can get from physicians, it's up to you, and you're advised to walk, but there's much more to it than just walking. Number two is basically handling P.A.D is like an endurance sport. It goes on all the time. It never goes away. And so fortunately, I have about 25 years of experience in triathlons, including multiple full distance Ironman, so I know what that's about. So the book is kind of designed around the endurance training approach that I used over these years of doing Ironman races. My P.A.D developed in 2014, that's a while ago, and yet in 2023, with great difficulty, I managed to compete in the World Half Ironman Championships. The run was hell, it was very hilly, but I came in third out of 7 athletes, and only 3 of us finished that race in the 80 to 84 age group. It was a tough race. So my methods work. I'm not saying they'll work for you. All I know is they work for me. And I went through this grief process myself when I was found I had a AAA and when people died. And as Susan said, it's a shock. If you stub your toe and it hurts a lot, you go through grief. First, it's a shock, and then it's, what the hell happened? And then you get pissed and you cuss the piece of furniture that you kicked, and then you come to terms with it. Well, that doesn't usually take too long, but if you lose a loved one or you lose part of your body, which is what you're doing with P.A.D. You're losing the power of your body. And I had that in 2010 with my AAA aortic aneurysm. I had to modify my training. I was at the top of my game, and I did the Lake Placid Ironman, and that is what resulted in my discovering I had an aortic aneurysm. It was a 6.9, so it was pretty big. I was lucky it didn't break. So I had a stent, and then I had to modify my training to adjust and protect the stent because you could dislocate it. It became dislocated twice in the World's Half Ironman Championships in Vegas. I was in a bike wreck. A guy rode into me, and that dislocated one arm, took me to the Cleveland Clinic. And then again in 2017, the extension they put in 2013 clotted right up. I think it probably kinked. It was a design problem. And so they managed to fix that, and I'm back in training again because exercise is key. But this book is set out with a training plan of 90 days, but it could be 3 years. It doesn't matter what it is, but you do need to cover all bases. I mean, you need to stretch, you need to get whole body strength, you need to learn how to run with your whole body. But first, you have to let go of the past. Sitting around drinking a beer in a bar with a bunch of buddies is not going to cure the problem. You have to take it on and have a plan. So I will address the book from here. The first chapter is called Grieve, Gird Your Loins, Plan, and Move On. And the grief part is different for everyone.
Yeah.
All right. You have to process the negative effects of P.A.D. on your life, find acceptance and let it go, so you can now move on to enjoy a new life in spite of it all. And if you don't let it go, you won't be able to enjoy a new life. I tell you, that aneurysm wasn't easy. I got on with the work of modifying my body movement, and I have extensive training in body movement, and I recommend that you study your body and how it works, take some yoga classes. Feldenkrais I like a lot, but all these are addressed in the book. And so I had to adapt.
Mimi loves yoga.
Yoga is a really good place, especially for stretching and true strength in your body, the power of your body. I studied yoga for a couple of years, then I moved on to Feldenkrais for different reasons. I started with martial arts when I was young in my 40s. I know Continuum was really interesting. Pilates was great for core. All these modalities are very helpful, and you've got to pick the one that works for you. And I address some of that later in the book. The thing about my AAA, my aortic aneurysm, it was life-threatening. It didn't burst. I was lucky. It got fixed with a stent. It could have been fixed with open, but that comes with its problems, but it's a better fix. And so then I had to adapt to the fact I had less power in my legs because of the stent is, it doesn't stretch like normal arteries, so it limited the blood to my legs. But I got on with it, and I continued doing full Ironman distance. But P.A.D. struck in 2014. P.A.D. is much worse than aortic aneurysm unless the aneurysm kills you. It's just there all the damn time. And so you have to fight back. And there's two ways you fight back after you've grieved: grow collaterals and modify the way you move. Anyway, so I lay all these different methods and approaches that you will need. I lay that all out in the book. Okay, so you're faced with a challenge of climbing back up to the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it might be mild, not such a big deal for you, and you're managing to get going, and that's fine. But people have written on Facebook and to me personally saying they got P.A.D. and they lost their job. They couldn't drive a truck. They couldn't focus in the same way that they used to because of this discomfort and pain. They lost their job. That throws them right down to Maslow's hierarchy of need, right at the bottom. It threatens your food. It threatens your income. It also threatens your ability to support your family. So in order to get back to the top, you have to somehow stabilize your life. And you can't do that without moving on, and eventually get back to having a complete life. And that takes time. And step one is grief, and get it out of the way. Okay, at the same time, you're getting older. So getting older comes with its own challenges, and you're having to fight that because steadily, you need glasses, and then you can't hear so well, and then you forget stuff, which is definitely true. And, so it's, you need a strategy for how to deal with life. And so this is what I recommend, what worked for me. Number one, don't give in to despair. And when people come online and they talk about they feel like giving up or they're despairing, uh, that worries me. I don't know how to help them or what to do. My approach is to present what I've done, how I overcame my problems with AAA, and then how I overcome P.A.D, and how I keep going in my 80s. And each one is a little tougher. And so you try to inspire them, but they have to educate themselves so they fully understand their problem. They have to fully if it's P.A.D, they need to fully understand what's going on in their distal limb, down in their lower legs and their feet. They need to understand it's just plumbing. It's not that complicated, but you do need to understand it, but you also need to understand it in a full body way. You have to learn how to move with your whole body. There's a chapter on that. So you may find that your problems are not so dire as you think. I have people come online on my AAA page on Facebook. I've got a 3.5, my life is over. A 3.5 aneurysm may not even be an aneurysm. It could just be phenotypic variation, but they are in total despair and scared to death. So people on the site and myself, we tell them what we're doing and what I'm doing now, 15 years later with a AAA, a big one. No, their life's not over, but you have to convince them of that. Does somebody want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to check in, with Mimi on that, because he says, you don't know what to say in that moment. And the only thing you can do when someone's going through this process of grief is to support them where they are and inspire them by sharing your story, sharing your experience, sharing what you have done to get through and persevere, right?
Yeah. And that's one of the things you need to do is by helping other people, you help yourself. Because when you help somebody and it's not about you, and they write to you a few weeks later, or somebody wrote to me from New Zealand, another one from Russia, when I described what I do with my AAA, and I got them back running again. Their doctors gave them bad advice. They said they couldn't run with a stent graft. That's not true. You just have to know how to run. And so you can actually totally change people's life by, telling them what you did or telling the story. Another important thing to do is to listen. I mean, there's a trick to listening. It took me a long time to learn that, but people, are really having a hard time and grieving the P.A.D. If you listen to their story, but not in a prying kind of way, and I'm sure that Mimi, or should I call her Susan?
Yep.
Have you got any comments on that? On how's the best way to learn how to listen?
Yes. So let's just start. This is strictly in the P.A.D situation with dealing with grief. So if we actually start through the listening process and we hear the story, I can tell you for sure, because we know this scientifically, that this is an issue caused by the circulatory system, correct?
Yeah.
So the circulatory system is run by our heart, which is the center of our universe. So we've got to start to think about what are the words that we're using as we're talking about the story. And the person who's listening, you pick up the words of the story, which has ultimately gotten this person to this place in their lifetime. So what does that mean? Well, I'm also a minister, so I really highly recommend, prayer or meditation or whatever that is for you, because we need to ask for a higher power for guidance. The guidance, because this is a situation that has been created for a soul lesson. If we can just come back to what is the lesson here, what is the takeaway, and let's start from here, because this is a new chapter in the life of this person, of this individual, of any of you listening. We're in a new chapter. What does that look like? So we start with, because we're made of more than 70% of water. So if you're familiar with the work of Masaru Emoto, he was a Japanese scientist who measured feelings, emotions in water. So he had a container of water that had horrible words around it: anger, frustration, meanness. Then he had another container of water with love, compassion, and joy. And he froze these containers of water, and then he sliced them, and then he put them under a microscope. Well, the words that were horrible and ugly had a horrible, ugly looking picture under the microscope. But the slice of the water with all the happiness and joy and love was beautiful like a snowflake. So what
Mm.
I'm trying to convey here is that our thoughts predict our future. So we are listening to the story, and we're going to try to help them reframe the story
Yeah.
in a positive way so they can physically move forward. So in other words, how did you become stuck? You, that's a question we can ask. What happened? And they know, they intuitively know in their DNA, they're going to know the answer. And so this is an opportunity to start over.
Yeah. We all go through different chapters in our life, right?
Yeah, it is actually an opportunity to start over, and it becomes, as soon as you accept the situation and let it go, then you're like, oh, well, this is exciting. What am I going to do now? I think I need to fix this somehow. You might change your sport, might change things in your life, but now you have a chance to move forward. I mean, I'm not really into higher powers, but I know everything is connected. It's clear, the more we study modern physics, it's clear that our minds are connected to each other and to the biosphere itself. Basically, we don't understand how it works, but the power of life is pretty remarkable. And you've got to just choose whatever works for you. I mean, meditation works for me, living in the moment works, helping other people help really feels really good. And also, completing another race. I like to do that. And also, I like to walk my dogs and all these, there's a lot of things in my life, even though I can't run as fast as I used to. So Susan is right about that. It's what if you have a religious belief, then benefit from it, take advantage of it, because it's one of the things that you've been building up. Me, I've been a scientist my whole life, and I've been studying life itself. And so I see life as my friend, that I know that the power of life is helping me each day. And it's a mystery. Life is a mystery, because if you look back at the origin of life itself, if you're not a creationist, uh, which you might be, that's up to you. I mean, it evolved in white vents in the ocean, apparently, and created these minuscule chemical machines. And then you look at the chemistry, and it's all predictable as far as chemistry is concerned. But where did the life part come in? It's actually quite a mystery, and I think it's the mystery that keeps me going. That's what I really like, and you have to find what you can. In fact, my second advice was to get any safe treatment for your PAD you can, and beware that so-called safe treatment. I know that one person lost a lot of her collaterals having a treatment. That's that's not very helpful, is it? Because you work for a long time to build those collaterals. But get a safe treatment, but make sure you understand what they're going to do. Kim works hard to get people to limb salvage positions. Some are less enlightened than that, and some will just opt for
Yep.
amputation, which the insurance industry seems to favor. Is that right, Kim?
I honestly, I do not understand it. I just found out here in California. Again, the Medi-Cal, it's the Medicaid of California. Medi-Cal has a new rule that's in effect as of January that states that an office-based facility, um, needs to jump through hoops to get people on Medi-Cal. And these are the most vulnerable populations. These are the African Americans. These are the Hispanics. These are the undocumented immigrants that are here in California. That they, at least it's great. They offer them insurance, right? They're here in California, but if you're going to give them insurance, well, then insure coverage of them, and they are not actually covering revascularization or limb saving techniques in these office-based facilities in a timely fashion. So the patients are going to these hospitals and they're just getting their legs cut off. I just had one just pass away last week. Wonderful little Hispanic lady, and she couldn't get her procedure in an office-based facility. They delayed it. They made the office-based lab jump through hoops to try and get the authorization to try and save the leg. And she couldn't deal with the pain anymore, went to the emergency room. And what do you think they did? They didn't even try to open up the arteries. They just chopped off her leg. And
Right.
she passed away last week with a blood clot.
So this is a battle we have to fight continually.
Yep.
And the nature of the American medical system is it needs some changes. I've talked about that quite a bit, how they really need a Bell Labs approach to solving the problem of making lifestyle fiscally effective for the industry. Because right now they live on pills and surgery, but they also
Yeah.
need to live on lifestyle changes, but there's no money in it. And therefore it dies on the vine. If I go for a yoga lesson or a Feldenkrais lesson, I have to pay that out of my own pocket. And of course, a lot of us now, I can't afford that because I'm on a fixed income and I'm getting older. But yeah, that's the problem. Anyway, so that's the safe treatment. Get what treatment you can. And then it's up to you. You have to be your own physician. You have to look after yourself. You have to do the work or you will pay the price. I hate to say it, but fighting P.A.D is an endurance sport. It happens every day. When I went in for my heart surgery, I lost quite a bit of power in my legs because, collateral started closing up as I'm lying there in a hospital bed. And now it's way back. I've got a gym. I'm getting back in, I want to train for a half Ironman next spring. So yeah, you've got to do the work. But there's a very important thing. You need to build a support network. Family, friends, and other P.A.D patients. That's what this is. It's a support network. I created a Facebook page for people with AAA, and I have nearly 2,000 people on there now. They come in every day. I was kind of surprised there were so many. And we, I watch people encouraging people who just came in. Sometimes I don't even have to run it at all. It runs itself. And it's really,
Yeah.
I like that because I got other fish to fry. I've got other things I want to do. I want to continue with my writing and training. Anyway, so the best way to build a network is caring for others, listening to their concerns, and only talking about your problems when they ask. That's what I've noticed. Also, I built a kind of pretty strong network in the local grocery stores. Right now, I'm 3 months in Missouri, and I see it already happening here. When I go and buy a coffee, I remember the person's name who served me the coffee, and I say thank you and leave a small tip. And now they're starting to remember my name, and they're starting to know which latte I like. I like a soy latte, and I can feel I'm building. Your community consists of your partner, if you have one, family, if you have family, very much your dog or cat. I can't imagine them without a dog and a cat. We've got like 9 animals now. It's far too many. Anyway, man, the vaccinations alone will bankrupt you. And then the guy who comes to fix your AC unit, he's kind of part of you. Just remember their name and ask them how they're doing. That's all. And if they talk too long, you've got to kind of cut them off. But most of them are just glad you showed an interest. So build that network, because if you build the network early in life, then it will be there for you when you need it. And also your network can be giving help up by helping other people ahead of you. I mean, I got some really good advice from older people when I was younger. Let me give you an example. When I was a young scientist, I kind of floundered my way through science, became a pretty good scientist, published a lot of publications. And then when I was pretty well known in my field, and I, was invited to give a lot of lectures. And one day I was at a big meeting, I think in Dallas, and I was sitting outside of one of these huge halls where they show the posters. And there will be hundreds of posters where, students and other people, other scientists, they put all their stuff on a big piece of board. It's about 6 feet long and 3 feet high, and you present your data and your results of your study, and then people can come by and have a one-on-one conversation with you. I personally hated that. I'd rather give a talk to 500 people and then go away and read a book. That's me. But a lot of people want that. They want you to
Yeah.
relate to them as an individual. And I was sitting outside reading a book as usual, and an older guy, I guess he was in his 70s, came by and said, Kevin, he said, you're well respected in your field now. I said, well, I guess. He said, well, now you have a different job. I said, what do you mean? He said, what you have to do, Kevin, is not sit here and read your book. You have to go into that lecture, that poster session, and find a student who nobody's showing any interest in their poster, and go up to them and look at their poster and ask them some questions. You'll make their day. And I'm like, well, I'll be damned. I didn't give a damn whether people looked at my posters or not. And he was right. He was actually right. And so I would do that. The subsequent scientific meetings, when there were poster sessions, I would go in, I'd show an interest, I'd ask them questions about their work. In the process, I'd also learn some pretty interesting science. And so it was in the act of caring that I cared for myself.
So I have a suggestion. To do something actionable in this grieving process. I recommend this. I've recommended it before for many people. I just actually did something like this for someone who lost their brother. But it's an actionable way you can honor the grief that's going on. And that's simply by taking a black ribbon or something that's black and wear it around your arm or your wrist. And every day for 30 days, so we've set a limit, right? For 30 days, we're going to grieve this loss and we're going to honor what happened. And then at the end of the 30 days, you take it off and you start your new chapter. I'm not saying in the meantime, you're not thinking about what the new chapter looks like. I'm saying that this is an actionable thing that you can do to help you recover from the shock.
So even when it comes to diagnosis,
Yes.
sorry, even when it comes to a diagnosis, you can tie this on and go, okay, I was diagnosed.
Yeah.
That is my grief. I have 30 days. I'm going to mark the calendar. Doesn't mean I'm not going to think about it then, but it actually it gives you kind of a light at the end of the tunnel, in a sense. Is that the idea?
It gives you permission to
Okay.
go through the grieving process.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot, actually. But I think if you were to maybe make a small pin, that was the thing, or you can have the armband or whatever, and then at the end of the 30 days, make a little boat and float it down the river and watch it go out to sea and let it go away. Because I know that's done that's been done for millennia, where someone will be killed and they'll put them on a boat or they'll burn the boat or whatever. And you actually really, truly let it go. But you have to be ready. I agree with that. That's an interesting idea. Me, I just sign up for another race.
Well, that is a Jewish faith practice, and but we can all benefit by it because they used to do it in the way back when century, that you would honor the dead by wearing this band, and then other people would know you were grieving as well.
Yeah, that's why I like wakes. I mean, it's good to have a party and celebrate, as well. So maybe at the end.
I wonder if there's an emoji. I wonder if there's something that we could, promote in the group and say, hey, do you need your 30 days? And just, this is your, pick your emoji, pick your black heart or black paws or
How about
something.
a black bow? Just a black bow. I mean, it's just a symbol that you can recognize and honor yourself, that you're recognizing that you are grieving, you have lost something. And then during this process, you're learning how to take back your control. You're taking personal responsibility for yourself.
Yep.
Okay, there were 4 things I recommend you do in this chapter. Thanks, Susan. Don't give in to despair. Get any available safe treatment you can. Build a support network. And number 4, which is close to Kim's heart, avoid amputation at all cost. I think that is, you've got to fight for your limb. You've got to fight for it. And that's a fact. And so physicians are making progress. But the trouble is, if we do a piece of research and invent a new stent or a new surgical approach, it usually takes about 10 years to go from the bench to the patient. It takes a long time because it has to be agreed to legally, and then you have to have the insurance aspects and the hospital aspect and the training of the staff. It takes a while. And all that time that you're waiting for a cure for your condition, you need to be busy. You need to be building collaterals, and you need to be letting go of that grief and now taking charge of your life again, as difficult as that sounds. And
And it
so,
is difficult. We have Leland Jella, who is watching on YouTube, who shows the importance of this particular episode. They say, I was recently diagnosed with PAD and got depressed after that. Now I know why. Yes, a diagnosis. And again, Susan, why does a diagnosis
Stop,
lead to grief?
Because you have given away your power. So you have now a label. You are labeled. I am this thing. I am PAD. So you don't need to own it like that. You can recognize you have these symptoms, and then you start doing your own deep dive and joining group like this and discovering more information. So what is scary is that you don't have the information. You've given away your power. You let somebody else tell you who you are now, and you don't know where to look. You don't know how to get out of that kind of dark hole because it's all new. You're still in shock. It's part of the grief process.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the value of these pages, because you can have a direct conversation with a person who's just discovered their diagnosis, and you can put their mind to rest or send them in the right direction to get the information. They have to educate themselves. Towards the end of this first chapter, I say it comes down to one thing. You have to find your strength within. I remember reading a great therapy book called The King Within. There was The Warrior. There were a series of 4 books on the psychology of, people. And having a king within means not giving your power away to the outside, be it to a doctor or a therapist or whatever. At the end of the day, you have to find that strength inside yourself. And these doctors and surgeons, etc., are just tools in your toolbox, but they're not you. You are not PAD. You are not your aneurysm. You're not whatever it is you have. You're still, a living, complete human being. So, yep, it's quite a trip. The thing about it is, once you get through the process, as people here are doing, you sure as hell grow. One thing I noticed with my heart surgery, and I was expecting this for nearly 50 years, because I have a high triglyceride level, was bound to cause cardiovascular disease, severe cardiovascular disease, including my heart eventually. That when I came home from having this surgery, where they put in 4 bypasses in my heart and kept me alive, which was kind of magic. My training helped a lot, I'm sure. What I noticed was the little things became big and the big things became little. Things I used to worry about, about the publishing the next book or getting the next thing done or dealing with the finances or whatever, those big things seem to become trivial. And looking out the window, seeing a hawk sitting on the fence outside my window became like a big deal. And so, yeah, you grow. They call it spiritually. I don't know what to call that, but you definitely grow as a human being. So yeah, having PAD is great.
So I want to share a quick story this morning. I just came
Kevin,
from
you're
having.
hilarious.
So I
would never go back.
I love you, Kevin. Go ahead, Mimi.
So I went to have acupuncture this morning, and I'm looking at the physical therapist. He's a young kid, really young. And so every time I go to have acupuncture, I'm giving him more homework. I give him homework every time I go. I say, have you read this book? Have you read this book? And so anyway, I look over at his next patient, and my eyes must have like gone really big. And I like said, come here to him. And I said, your patient has PAD, peripheral artery disease. And he just looked at me. From her shin down, both of her legs were almost black. And so I said, so he left the room. I'm like, I can't leave without saying something. So I gave her your phone number, Kim.
Oh, you're the best.
I gave her your phone number. I said, are you on Facebook? That's how I started the conversation. I said, are you on Facebook? And she said, yes. I said, well, there's a group called The Way to My Heart, and I think you should join it and start listening to what's going on there because I think you have PAD. And she goes, and then she went down this whole diatribe of all these doctors she's seen. Mind you, none of them diagnosed her with PAD. And I said, well,
Nope.
we have recommendations for that. And so I said, here's Kim's phone number. And then I said, here's her picture. And this is Kim. So tell her Susan Davis sent you, and please do it today.
Yeah, I hope she does call Douglas. Did you hear that? So Douglas is in our live studio audience. He's one of our P.A.D. navigators. The answers are like Saver Hotline. But so if she calls today, we'll be watching the phone lines. We'll be ready for her. But thank you for doing that. That's really what it takes. It takes the courage really to stand up and reach out, because as Kevin talks about a lot, it's really hard to find other people that have PAD. People don't talk about their PAD diagnosis. They'll put out on Facebook that they have cancer. But when it comes to PAD, which is more prevalent and deadlier than prostate cancer, colon cancer, and breast cancer combined, they don't post it. And it's an embarrassment, I feel like, why they don't, and they shouldn't be embarrassed by it. The doctors sometimes do make a person feel bad about it. Even if it is a hereditary thing, even if it's, a clotting disorder that they can't control, even if it's diet or it's a sedentary lifestyle or they've smoked or they have diabetes, like, it's no reason to be embarrassed. Let's take ownership of it today, help spread awareness, inspire others to improve their diet, to start walking, to quit smoking, and to get checked for any hereditary blood disorders that may cause clotting that could lead to blocked arteries in your legs. It's really important to put it out there and to own it, and let people surround you with the support you need and the accountability. I know in our groups, if you're posting that you're trying to run a marathon and that's your goal, and you give us updates in the group that, hey, here's where I'm at. And even if you have a setback and say, well, I didn't get out of bed today, is what it is. And I know Mike, our friend Mike here, this was the approach that he took. And every single step forward and the 2 steps back, he posted along the way, and he got the accountability and he got the support he needed, right, Mike, to kind of get through. And it is, as Kevin described, it's an endurance sport. PAD is an endurance sport. You have your good days, you have your bad days, but you're really looking at the long term with it, right,
Yeah.
Mike?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like most of you know, once I got diagnosed last February, for the first 6 months, I didn't even want to leave the house. I was struggling to get up, and then I was going through people's posts. It became a day-to-day routine, was sitting up on the sofa, reading everybody's stories, going through Facebook page after page, reading, and it taught me a lot of things, you know. And then I thought to myself one day, I need to get up, I need to start moving, I need to start doing things. I couldn't walk 500 yards without getting claudication pain.
Yeah.
Look at me today, 18 months on.
I'm so proud of you.
I've not stopped. I've been walking for the full hour that we've been on this call.
Amazing.
I'm getting no pain, no discomfort at all. Even doing an incline. I've already done the treadmill this morning. I've done 12,000 steps on the treadmill before I've come out. So, it's just all about learning things. And but again, you say you do have your bad days. I had a bad day last week, like I said earlier on, saying thank you to Marina and Josh. I was emotional last week. I just didn't know where the day was going to take me, but it's just another day. Tomorrow's going to be another day.
Don't let the dog in, excuse me.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for Coach Susan while you're here? I know you've been going through a lot. But since she's here, if there's anything that's on your mind that she could help, move you through, whether it's with the loss of a family member or where you're at in your PAD journey.
I've not got any questions as such. No, I think that I kind of deal with grief in my own way. I've had a lot of loss over the last few years. I lost my husband to cancer in 2020. I lost my
Yeah.
dad in 2017 to cancer.
Hey, hey,
You know,
hey.
and now I've been diagnosed with P.A.D. It's just another, dare I say it, another nail in the coffin, so to speak. You know.
Yeah, as Coach Susan, a lot of times, life happens and it always seems like one thing after another. And it's like just when you're moving through the process of grief with one thing, then something else happens. Is there any way to kind of stop this domino effect in what it seems to be?
Yes, actually, I think that you should start practicing. Remember, you're in your new chapter and you're taking personal responsibility, but start to just practice. Just for instance, put your hand over your heart. Everybody put your hand over your heart and just take a breath and just feel the weight of your hand on your chest. Automatically, that calms the vagus nerve. And then from here, take 3 deep breaths, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Again. One more. And then realize you are in the eternal now. We're not looking at yesterday and we're not looking too far forward. Practice living in the eternal now and being personally responsible for your new chapter. Don't give up. The new technologies are just on the horizon. Some of that stuff is in the files.
Yeah,
I love that.
I find the work of Eckhart Tolle and using the Power of Now meditations helped me a lot to turn off my brain and just be present. And that makes a huge difference. We can actually get quite a bit of inspiration from books. For instance, one of my heroes is Jean-Dominique Bauby, also Viktor Frankl. And I have a brief, interesting story. A meditation really, like Susan said, meditation and calming your mind, it makes all the difference. And the thing is, if you're triggered with fear or the shock, it's harder to calm down, but it definitely works. I was out riding a bike with a friend. We were on a kind of 70-mile ride. We were on our way back home and on a straight piece of road. And my riding partner was ahead of me, and a minivan comes up alongside me, which in North Carolina usually means that somebody's going to wind the window down and scream abuse at you and say you're an effing liberal and get off the road. That occurs, but the window wound down, and the guy driving the car, I mean, I was just cruising, I was 16 or something, and he says, "I really like the light on your bike," and I'm like, because I had a dyno light, it was really bright. It's got to be bright during daylight. And I said, "How come?" He said, "Well, I've got one like that on my wheelchair." This guy's talking to me as he's driving, and I'm riding a bike. Anyway, I said, "Well, why'd you have a wheelchair?" He said, "Well, I was in Iraq and I was, by one of these propelled grenades, and he got paralyzed from the waist down." And he said, "I lost the use of my legs because he controlled his van with, hand controls." And I said to him, thinking of the usual people who wind the window down, I said, "Well, how come you aren't a complete asshole screaming and yelling abuse at me?" He said, "Oh, it's funny you should say that." He said, "I was very, very angry for the first year. I was really angry. And then one day I woke up and realized I have a choice. I can get over it and move on and have a life, or I can die angry." So he decided he wanted to have a life. He was the sweetest, nicest man, and he had a really good job and a family, and he'd moved on. But it took him a while, and I find him inspiring. And also the work of Stephen Pressfield, his book Turning Pro. You can't approach PAD as an amateur. You have to approach it as a professional. And his book, Turning Pro, really helps with that, approach to the problem. So, yeah, so that's the first chapter out of the way. There are other chapters that cover many things. Let me just tell you very briefly what they are, if I can find them.
And meantime, as he's looking for them, I'm curious from, our studio audience, just a few folks that have agreed to chime in, like Douglas. Douglas, what are your thoughts? This is a topic that is near and dear to your heart. I know you're still going through it. Is still an endurance sport, for you as you prepare to go back in and get treatment. But Douglas, go ahead and unmute and share with us your thoughts, because you also host our afternoon hangout and hear the stories of people in this roller coaster journey we call PAD.
Where do I start?
Always a good
Well,
question, right? Where you are.
well, in dealing, as a LCDC for over 30 years and in recovery and dealing with the outside PAD, I know a lot about this also. And I deal with it every day, answering the hotline also for a suicide hotline. And so I have to say, I am coming up on 42 years clean and sober next month. And I say this all the time in my other AANA groups and a couple other groups. Every day now, even with PAD, I have to get up and find a purpose and a goal for that day. If I get up and I don't find a purpose or a goal for that day, I'm going to be sitting on the couch at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And the more I sit on the couch, the more I go that direction. So I have to, and I'll tell, if I'm sponsoring you, I'm just going to tell you, get your ass up, get moving, and find something to do. Because if you keep doing the same things, you're going to keep getting the same results. So that is a large part what I deal, how I deal. I got diagnosed yesterday. I got to have another procedure, and I got up and went outside, went back to my woodworking. So I have to say, the last 5 years, all the procedures, I lost my mom, I lost my older sister, my house burnt down, lost everything I owned,
Lost your
but
babies.
lost two of my hunting dogs, and they were all something to me. But here I am coming up on 42 years, and if you look behind me, I built me a tiny house.
He
I
did.
I got up, I got off my ass, I got off the couch, and I built me a tiny house in the last 2 years. So it it it's just, for me, it's a process of getting up every morning and finding a purpose for that day. Whether it's rearranging one drawer, walking to the end of the couch and back, walking to the end of the couch and back every 10 minutes, walking to the end of the driveway. Find something to do every day. And I make a lot of phone calls just to call people, because
Yeah.
it also gets me out of myself too. And on the part about listening is a learned experience. Listening is something that a lot of people don't know how to do. Now, I'm speaking for me. Uh, we usually listen to the conversation, and halfway through there, we're already ready to respond, and we're still not listening.
Yeah.
We just listen for what we want to respond to. So listening is an art. You have to learn to do it. And y'all talked about, I like her idea about power. Also, when I was diagnosed with PAD, this also goes back to my recovery. The word control is a big word, because when I was diagnosed, it meant I lost control. And then I can't, I mean, for me, it's that word control. And it means a lot when I think I am in control of my life. I'm in control of what's happening around me. And I have to realize I'm in control of nothing. I control nothing, nothing at all. Now, this is how I do it in my recovery today. My personal recovery, I substitute the word control for the word manage. Because when you say the word control, I'm probably talking too much. I'm sorry. When you say the word,
You're fine.
You're fine.
when you say the word control, you don't have a lot of options. The word itself does not give you a lot of options. When you substitute that, for me, when I substitute that for the word manage, then I have a lot of options. But when I'm trying to control something, I get to a point. If I'm trying to control something, it either it works one way or it doesn't. But when I manage it, well, then I have a lot of options I can use. I'm not stuck. I don't get stuck when I use the word manage in my life and not the word control. So it's that part about like the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, and depression and acceptance. We do have to go through all that, and it is a process. Kevin's right about that one. It doesn't. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen overnight. It is a process of growing, relearning, and when I do my other phone calls, well, I'm just going to say this. For me, it's a process. I want y'all all need to, Kevin, Mike, get up, do something today. Find something different to do. Thomas, get up, find something different to do. Marina, walk to the end of the couch every 10 minutes. Get up, walk to the end of the couch every 10 minutes. So when you lay in bed tonight and that disease tries to tell you're nothing, your life is over, all that stuff our disease tries to tell us, you can say, wait a minute, I walked to the end of the couch 42 times today. I did something. And I apologize for talking too much here, but
No, you're fine.
that's
We're practicing our active listening skills.
so
Exactly.
it is a process. So
Well,
you're
basically,
diagnosed. Go ahead.
basically, you're saying if you want to have a life, you got to make a life, and that's true. You have to work for it and make your life, and that's what each of us is doing. So,
In our own way.
yeah.
And I think that's important. And I wanted to see if Susan wanted to respond to Douglas. That was a lot. It was very eloquent, very well said, and very authentic. And I think so many can relate. We even have Craig, who just brought tears to my eyes because he says, thank you guys so much. I live alone. And when I was diagnosed, fell into a slight depression. So many people are resonating with this. It's not discussed. And I know Douglas says this every single week we do our hangout. It's not discussed. It's a very real thing that grief is real when you get a diagnosis, especially of this, and then you Google it, and some sponsored ad that Google has picked up from USA Vascular that claims that you're going to be dead in 5 years. It's just clickbait. You have to realize you have to dig through and find the information that will support you in your journey and help you through this grieving process to get to a point where you're going to persevere with the things that you can manage in your own life: the walking, the diet, the smoking cessation, the diabetes control, if it's medicine to control your blood clots. But he said he told himself, I'm in a self-pity, and thought my life was over. And you guys have shown me that it's not my identity. It is not your identity. Don't let it define who you are. And a good friend of Coach Susan and I don't know the grammar of this, and I's, forgive my grammar. Um, Adrian, Coach Adrian, she is Dr. Adrian. Why did I lose her last name, Susan?
Caruso now.
It's Caruso. That's why I was thinking her last name. I wasn't sure if she was going by the new name. So Dr. Adrian Caruso, who is a functional medicine practitioner, who wrote a section of our mental health awareness, which reminds me, I need to get out our mental health awareness booklet that we created, where she talks about don't define yourself by your disease. It's why I don't like the designated advocates for any particular disease to put someone on a soapbox, because they end up defining themselves by that disease. And I'm hoping through the way in which we offer opportunities for people to speak up, that it doesn't put you in a place where you're retelling, right, Susan, the same story over and over and over again, so that it defines who you are. It does not define who you are. In Kevin's case, doesn't define him. In Douglas's case, he's saying it is not his identity. He gets up every day, and he's a creator. He built this tiny house with his own hands in the last 2 years, despite his PAD.
Wait, I want to add one quick thing. Just because we're diagnosed with PAD, life does not stop.
Mm-mm.
All the insanity of life that we all go through does not stop the moment we're diagnosed with PAD. It still
That's a good point.
happens.
Yeah. You know, the moment that I realized that, I never realized that in the 40 something years of my life at the time, but Coach Susan helped me the day my mom passed. The world in my eyes, right? Susan, you were on the phone with me in that moment where I was watching them resuscitate. You were the only person that I could call. I didn't know who else to call. I just knew in that moment I needed to talk to you. And it was in that moment, life stopped. Life stopped for me. Her heart stopped. Life stopped. But it was like surreal that when I walked outside, like life was still going on around me. I was still getting texts from our nurse practitioner to try and save people's legs in the hospital from amputation and trying to get coordinated with a doctor. Life did not stop. And I remember the conference, that was happening that week, that I had doctors that were part of it that were saying, hey, let's cancel the conference around me. And I remember talking to you and you said, well, why are we canceling it? We're not canceling it. What are you going to do? Just sit home and cry? Is life stopping? No, it doesn't. It continues to move forward. And you can either stay on the train or jump off. And it becomes that choice. Right, Susan?
Everything is a choice.
Well, this
Everything is a choice.
death and taxes.
Yes, Mike?
I just wanted to second what you were just saying there, Kim. I mean, when I lost John in 2020, my whole life ended that day, and it felt like I was stood still, and I was stood in the middle of this whirlwind just around me of life going on. Everybody else was still carrying on with life, and yet I was stuck there. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know what to do on a daily basis. And
Right?
when I got diagnosed with PAD, I was one of these guilty of charged. I was always Googling things, and I went down the rabbit hole of, got a diagnosis. I've got a prognosis of 5 years. What am I going to do? This is it, and I struggled. And then I took a moment to realize that my own mother is a PAD patient. She had an amputated leg because of it, and she's still been going. She's still going 13 years on. She's been to Canada. She travels to Australia. She goes swimming. She drives. She's become overly independent. And me sat there wallowing in my own self pity about how long I had left to live. I should just really have looked at my own family lifestyle and look at how my mum is doing, really. So I just wanted to chime in there a little bit. Sorry.
Oh,
And I got something to add too. Somebody asked me the other day, at, in the process of this, we think it's always going to be a struggle. I want to give everybody out there listening to me right now this thought. You practice this today, tomorrow it'll get easier. The next day it'll get easier. The next day it'll get easier. So when I hung up with my doctor yesterday, he said he gave me all the, and it wasn't good news, but big deal. So I sat in my chair for about 5 minutes and then I got up. I gave myself 5 minutes. I called my brother. I said all the dirty words. I said all the things I wanted to say. And it was like, all right, I'm done. Let's go on. So it's not always, I want to give y'all hope and courage here to think you practice it today and tomorrow it'll be easier. The next day it'll be easier. The next day it'll be easier. It just gets easier if the more we practice every day. Walk, walk, walk. The more we practice every day. All right, I'm gonna deny it, I'm gonna get angry, I'm gonna bargain, I'm gonna depression, then I'm gonna accept it and I'm gonna get up and get going. I only wasted 5 minutes of my life going through that.
Yeah, it gets
So
to the point that
practice.
you don't even think about it. I mean, in my P.A.D. since 2014, I now have techniques for getting blood flow to my feet that work. I can go to the gym, I can work out, but when I start writing or deal with the dogs or whatever, I forget about it. I can get around fine. Okay, I go up a hill and I get a bit of claudication, but I don't think about it. I just work harder with my feet and up I go. It's
So
so it's just part of life, right?
So Kevin, here's a question for you. You can actually train your brain this process. So there's a connection. So if I have a loss and every time I have a loss or I have a defeat or something negative happens, if I drink after a while, my brain connects those two together. So the more you practice training your brain, well, if I get angry, lonely, or tired, and I get up and I do something different, after a while, I don't have to think about that. It just automatically comes up positive after a while. I have to train myself to go there, don't I?
Yeah, I mean, you have to turn it into a conditioned reflex, like driving your car. You don't think about driving your car. And it's the same with driving your body with PAD. You don't think about it. You do the exercises, you do the work, you walk the way you improve. It just turns into part of life. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's still PAD and you've got to keep fighting back, but it doesn't feel like a fight anymore. It's just, you're just living your life, but it takes a little bit of takes work to get there.
Yeah, it becomes an everyday thing. It's when I first started, and I was I was really having to force myself to do the treadmill. Now I go to the gym every day. I do the treadmill every single morning, and it just becomes part of life's routine. And you've just got to accept that, accept the losses and accept the things that you can't do anymore, and move forward with the things that you can. And another thank you for Douglas as well. Thank you for everything. He called me the other day just to check in on me to make sure that I was all right, and I really appreciated that call. So because this group has become part of my life, and it's a massive community, and it's just amazing. You're all amazing people. I don't know where I'd be now without you all.
We
I
love
wouldn't
you.
be sat here at a riverside like this, enjoying the view and the day.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thanks for sharing. If you want to see the folks that are in our live studio audience, you can always email us at info@padhelp.org. I want to give the floor to Susan with her final thoughts as we go through in just a moment. But I see Marina sitting there, and Marina, I know you've been struggling. You've been going through multiple procedures, and you had a wound vac and all this stuff. Sitting here and listening, because you are heading into a new chapter and it has been a struggle. Would you mind just sharing your thoughts in the moment, whatever comes to mind after this powerful session with Coach Susan and Kevin?
Well, for me, I have had a lot of challenges, as have most people, but I just can't get out of the denial. I just want to be normal. I want to get back what I don't have now. So for me, that's a big struggle, because I don't want to think that, okay, maybe my legs will be like this forever. I don't want that. So it's hard for me to get out of the denial phase for this.
Coach Susan, do you have any thoughts? She had a bypass procedure done. And it's a very long, arduous process to get yourself back in and walking again, knowing that you need to walk when you're just struggling in the moment. How do you get out of that denial phase and move on? Maybe what is the denial phase? How do you get there, and what are a couple steps that she can use to help get out of it and move forward?
Well, the denial is still shock. Okay, we're still in the shock position, but honestly, getting outside, grounding yourself with
Yeah.
Mother Earth, okay, taking your shoes and socks off and get on the earth, on the grass or the dirt or whatever it is, you must get into the sunlight and re-sync up with the earth frequency, because there is a frequency with Mother Earth. Rather, the regular news channel doesn't talk about it, but it's true. Okay, and when we get out of alignment with the earth's frequency, which is changing every day now, then we tend to feel like how you're feeling right now. So I'm validating the fact that that is real at this moment, but I say go outside, take a towel and lay on the ground for 30-40 minutes.
Yeah, I'm out a lot. I try to, and Kim, my bypass, I have to say, it was successful. My leg hasn't been as good as it is now, and it's been 6 weeks, but I have to say I'm 100% successful. So I'm thrilled about that. But it's just, everything else around it. But yeah, I do try and spend, get a little vitamin D every day, early morning, because I do burn. And try and walk as much as I can. But now I've been walking like 1.5 miles a day, and that has caused problems. I have a big wound, so now I have to stop walking. So it just seems one thing after another. Just
If you're open to it, Marina, I'd love to work with you if you have an opportunity to do that. So I'm offering that up to you.
okay, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, she's powerful. I mean, I'm going to tell you, she changed my life. So, and you should see the success of her granddaughter with all that she, went through. Like her granddaughter is a force, literally a force. And it is amazing. And she's helped quite a few people. I think Douglas, you even worked with Mimi at one point, didn't you? Long time ago. Early on, I think you had a phone call.
I'm always trying to get you to go different directions than what you want to sometimes. And that's the point. Like Marina is like what she's talking about is where we want to. I love the idea about laying on the ground. It's pouring down rain here, so I don't know if I'll do that today because I'll catch a cold. But I mean, get out of yourself for a moment. Get on the page or write somebody in here. Give me 5 things that you are other than your P.A.D. Write it down every day. Every day, get up and write something like that down. Every day, get up and call somebody different that you don't normally call. And that's that point about getting out of ourselves sometimes. So, and it for me, it's actually doing something, getting off your ass and doing something. You actually have to do that for it to work. There's no osmosis here. There's no I don't have. I ordered a
I love
magic
that.
fairy wand off of Amazon, but it's on back order, so I haven't gotten it yet. So I can't walk
It's
around and
forever on
tap
back
people
order.
on the head. But you have to get up and do something.
Yeah. But I love also what Coach Susan said as well. And one of those things that you can do, as Douglas suggested, is, focus on what you can do. And laying on the ground, I think that there's a lot more to it than just going outside. It's being one. And Susan had me do that and to find a bed of grass. And I laid in it. And I'm going to tell you, it's very different than standing. And if you could do it with your bare feet and go in the grass and do a little earthing. But when you're laying there on the grass and you feel the fluctuations in the levels there, the little pits and the peaks and whatever they are. It feels very different laying there and closing your eyes, right, Susan? It's a different experience. Yeah.
And it
So,
makes a difference
Marina,
because
give
you
it a
turn
try.
you turn the TV off, turn the radio off, and you connect with yourself.
Yeah. I do that a couple times a day with, I have my Wim Hof breathing. So I do my Wim Hof breathing techniques. I have a video I do, and it's just breathing techniques. And then it has a little music in the end. And for 15 minutes post, I just let my mind just drift. And I think that's important. And Susan, on our website, we have your ocean breaths video. So you can go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/the way to my heart. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe, like this video, subscribe, and like that video that she did, where she, brings you through the journey of doing these ocean breaths, which cleanse your entire system and cleanse your circulatory system. She always says there are 3 reasons for disease: lack of oxygen, lack of water, and lack of magnesium. And one of those is lack of oxygen. And I just had a patient that was a drowning victim when she was younger, and her doctor told her that she would be in a wheelchair 30 years later. And now she understands why. It's because of the circulatory issues, the damage done by the lack of oxygen. But you can replenish that. And so I actually had sent her your video yesterday. It's why it's top of mind, for the ocean breaths, to help her in that journey to replenish her system and hopefully restore the circulatory system with that additional oxygen. Oxygen heals. That's why when you have a wound on your foot and you don't have blood flow, your
Right.
wound is not going to heal because it needs oxygen, right, Mimi?
Yeah, they should be automatically prescribing hyperbaric chamber automatically and not waiting. That should be
Yeah.
right away. Don't
Yep.
get me going on that.
I know. Right? I have one of our doctors, Dr. James Antizano, who's getting a hyperbaric chamber for his house. Not everyone can afford that. Most people can't, but he believes in it wholeheartedly, that oxygen in these hyperbaric chambers can really help renew your entire circulatory system. So I know we're over time here. I appreciate Joshua, our producer, for working overtime here and volunteering to help us get this message out. I want to close with some final thoughts from Coach Susan, and then we'll get into Kevin with final thoughts and what we're going to do next week.
So my final thought is take your power back. Grieving is a process. Don't beat yourself up. Don't give up. And give gratitude for the smallest things. Live in the eternal now and smile.
That's beautiful. And Kevin, final thoughts and lead us into what to expect next week.
Well, there are another 19 chapters in the training plan. And I suggest you start with your feet. Chapter 2 and 3 are kind of, they're relevant, but the first one is fixing your footwear and then waking up your feet and turning them into remote blood pumping stations. Physically, that's the most useful thing I think you can do of all. But after that, it's whole body training and all that kind of thing. So yeah, there's plenty of tricks that we have up our sleeve to help us. And most